The desert slept beneath a pale horizon, its silence broken only by the first stirrings of morning life. In a city of sunburnt stone and slow-moving canals, there lived an old man whose hands were stained with ink, and whose voice was known for fairness. He worked as a notary, a man who wrote truth into words, sealed promises, and settled disputes. His beard had long turned white, and his eyes had grown soft from years of reading the fine print of human nature. Yet his back was straight and his conscience clear. For more than 40 years, people had trusted his word more than gold. He had a saying, "Write only what is true, and you will sleep without turning your pillow." That was how he lived, as quietly, honestly, without pride. But the city around him had changed. The market no longer smelled of clean trade and laughter. Silver had become the new truth. Men's tongues had grown sharper than their tools, and even a handshake could hide deception. Still, the old man continued his work. He believed that even one honest line written each day was a victory against the noise. One evening, as the sun melted into a red haze, a stranger walked into the market. His robe was tattered, his sandals worn. His eyes, however, were clear, the kind of eyes that made liars swallow their words. He looked around the square, at the merchants arguing over prices, at the beggars waiting for pity, and at the notary sitting by his low wooden desk beneath a hanging lamp. The stranger raised his voice and said, "Who here sells truth?" The laughter came quick and loud. "Truth?" shouted a spice seller. "We haven't sold that in years." Another man added, "Even the mosques tax honesty these days." The old man didn't laugh. He put down his pen and said, "I sell nothing, but I write what I can prove." The stranger studied him quietly. "Then lend me your voice," he said. "Let it belong to truth alone." The old man smiled, thinking it was a joke. "My voice already belongs to truth." The stranger shook his head slowly. "Not as much as you believe. From the next dawn to the next, you will speak only truth, and you will not bear to hear a lie without answering it. If you refuse, the curse will fall upon another, someone undeserving." The market fell silent. The old man looked at the faces around him, the traders, the workers, the children. He sighed and said, "If a burden must be carried, let the old carry it." The stranger stepped closer, touched the man's throat lightly, and whispered, "Then truth will have a voice once more." When the old man blinked, the stranger was gone. The crowd muttered and dispersed, shaking their heads. Only the ink pot beside him rippled, though there was no wind. The next morning, the old man woke before dawn. The call to prayer echoed faintly through the streets. He sat at his table, dipped his pen, and waited for work to begin. His throat tingled, not with pain, but with an unfamiliar weight, as though something unseen sat beneath his skin. Girding, the first visitor came soon, a woman covered in a thin black shawl, holding papers to settle her late husband's debts. She spoke softly, but her words twisted slightly around the truth, painting herself more victim than she truly was. The old man tried to stay silent, but his chest tightened painfully. The words leapt out of him. "That is not the full truth," he said. "You are owed less than you claim." The woman's eyes widened. "You call me a liar?" "I call you human," he replied, gasping for breath. "But truth calls for correction." She left angry, her pride bruised. The old man felt guilty but relieved, as though a fever had broken. As the day passed, the curse, or the blessing, revealed itself fully. A baker who cheated on weight, a servant who lied about his master's payment, a young apprentice who boasted of skill he did not have. None escaped correction. The old man's voice would not let a falsehood stand. By midday, the marketplace buzzed with talk of the notary who could no longer keep his tongue still. Some mocked him. Others avoided him, but there were a few who looked at him with strange respect. Truth had become something rare, dangerous yet beautiful. Then, as the sun began to dip, a tall, well-dressed merchant entered the office. His robes were of fine cloth, his rings glittered, and his voice was thick with honey. He said, "Old one, I wish to make a donation to the city orphanage, 50 silver coins. Write it in the record." The old man's heart began to race. His throat grew hot. His voice burst out like fire. "Your gift is false. Those coins were stolen from the orphanage last month. You hid them in your nephew's name." The merchant's smile froze. His attendants looked at one another in shock. "You dare accuse me?" he said, his tone still calm but dangerous. Do you have proof? You took the ledgers from the storeroom near the canal, the old man said, trembling. You paid the guard in pistachios and fear. The merchant's jaw tightened. You are old, he said slowly. Be careful what your memory invents. Then he turned and left without another word. By sunset, the entire market knew what had happened. The city loved gossip more than prayer. By evening, even the judge had heard. That night, the old man was summoned to the Hall of Justice. The judge, a man of stern fairness, sat behind a low desk surrounded by candles. You have always been cautious with your words, said the judge. Today you accuse a wealthy man of theft. On what authority? The old man replied, on the authority of truth itself, and on a debt I owe to my own silence. The judge frowned. Explain. Years ago, said the old man, that same merchant cheated a dying porter of his pay. I knew it. I said nothing, thinking silence was peace. My silence cost the man's widow her home. I wrote her eviction notice with my own hand. Since then I have slept beside that sin every night. The judge lowered his eyes. The hall was quiet. The judge finally said, Then tomorrow we shall test your truth. Bring this merchant at dawn. Bring the guard and the ledgers if they exist. At dawn the air hung heavy and pale. The city gathered near the canal, where the storerooms of spice and grain stood. The judge arrived first, followed by the merchant, his attendants, the guard, and the old man. The merchant spoke smoothly. This is nonsense, he said. An old man's pride and fading mind. The judge gestured. Show us where the truth hides, he said. The old man walked slowly to the back of the storeroom. His fingers trembled as he pointed to a wall behind the sacks of cumin. There, he whispered. 3 planks from the corner. The guards pried the boards loose, dust rose. Behind them lay 2 books bound in cracked leather, one full of real numbers, the other filled with lies. The crowd gasped. The guard fell to his knees, trembling. I was told to keep quiet, he cried. I have children. I feared hunger. The old man placed a hand on the guard's shoulder. You feared hunger, he said softly, but you fed shame. Take courage now. Truth will feed you better. The merchant turned pale. Do you think one mistake defines me? He said. The judge replied, No, but hiding it does. Still, the merchant refused to yield. These papers mean nothing without witnesses, he said. At that moment, a calm voice spoke from the doorway. Then let the city itself witness. Everyone turned. The stranger from the market stood there, robes now clean and face calm. He stepped forward into the light. This old man carried a burden that was not his to bear, he said. What will you carry, merchant? I carry power, the merchant said bitterly. I have friends and gold and the patience to outlast fools. The stranger looked at the judge. Judge what you see, he said quietly, not what you are promised. The judge nodded. The evidence speaks, he said. The ledgers are false. The coins must return. You will repay double what you stole, and you will do it yourself, in the marketplace by daylight. The merchant's lips trembled. This is humiliation. The judge replied, No, it is justice. The crowd murmured in agreement. When the crowd dispersed, the old man sat by the canal, staring into the dark water. His hands trembled with exhaustion. The stranger appeared beside him. Your day of truth is nearly over. The stranger said softly, Is there anything left unsaid? The old man hesitated. His throat tightened again, though the curse no longer forced him. Yes, he whispered. There is one truth I never confessed. Many years ago, a thief tried to steal my father's pen. I caught him. I spared him. I taught him to write, believing that education could save him. That thief became the man we judge today. The stranger listened in silence. And what do you ask of heaven now? The old man's voice cracked. That my mercy be forgiven, for it created pride instead of gratitude. And that the poor never pay for the lessons of the proud. The stranger smiled faintly. Your truth has freed more than yourself, he said. Tomorrow the merchant will repay what he stole. The city will see that justice still breathes. And you, old one, will write again. Not for coin, but for memory. The sky began to pale. The first light crept across the canal. The stranger's form shimmered slightly, like heat rising from stone. His voice grew softer. You ask who I am, he said. I am no beggar. I am a seeker sent by higher hands to test the tongues of men. I came to see if honesty still lived beneath your roofs. I found it in you." The old man bowed deeply. "Then the test was not mine," he said quietly. "It belonged to all of us." The stranger nodded. "Yes, and you reminded them that truth is not a blade meant to wound, but a mirror meant to heal." The old man closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the stranger was gone. The canal was still. The city was waking. By sunrise, the merchant stood in the marketplace under the eyes of the crowd, returning every stolen coin to the orphanage's keeper. No guards, no pride, no excuses, only the weight of silver and shame. Some people whispered that the judge had forced him. Others said the hand of heaven had pressed on his shoulder. Whatever the reason, justice had walked through their streets that morning like light through dust. The old man stood at a distance, watching quietly. He no longer felt the warmth in his throat. The curse had lifted, or perhaps it had never been a curse at all. He returned to his desk, cleaned his ink pot, and began to write again. His handwriting was slower now, but steadier than it had ever been. That evening, a young boy came to him with trembling hands, holding a torn page. "Sir," the boy said, "I cannot read this. My master says the words lie." The old man looked at the paper. It was a fake receipt, forged to cheat the boy's wages. He smiled sadly, wrote the correction, and said, "Now it tells the truth." The boy's eyes shone. "Will it stay true forever?" "No," the old man said softly. "Truth doesn't stay. It must be spoken again each day, or it dies." He handed back the paper, and as the boy left, he looked toward the fading light outside his window. The air smelled of the sea and ink and something else. Freedom. That night, he slept well. The city slept too, lighter than before, as if someone had lifted a curtain from its conscience. In the following days, the story spread across the land. The story of the old notary who spoke only truth for one day and changed the balance of a city. Some said the stranger was an angel. Some said he was a test of destiny. The old man never claimed to know. He continued his quiet work, teaching young scribes to hold their pens like swords, sharp against lies, gentle with truth, and so the people remembered his saying, "Write only what is true, and you will sleep without turning your pillow." They said the desert keeps no secrets. But perhaps that is not a curse. Perhaps it is mercy. Because some truths, once spoken, free more than just the tongue that speaks them.